So the purpose of this is to talk about two very similar concepts I'm intertwining. I want to make sure I get them communicated properly. So when you design a level in my class, regardless of where the level is, I want you to have the following structure. I want you to have a starting point somewhere where the player spawns. And so the starting point should, through a process called gating, we're going to fence or gate this player so that they go from the starting point to a challenge. The first challenge they encounter should be relatively simple, and they should learn something from it. And then there could be a checkpoint there as well. There's an example of this process of a checkpoint within the hour of code when you learn how to do collision data with a reset. The next challenge should teach you something else. And so, in again, the hour of code example, the first challenge would be don't fall, and the second one might be watch your timing. The third challenge that I like to see in a level tends to use both of the earlier ones. So, the lessons you learned from the first challenge combined with the lessons that you've learned from the second challenge provide you with the information that you need to actually get to challenge 3. Thought of another way, there is no way really to skip from the starting point over to challenge 3. That would be something that you wouldn't let them do. Nor could you start it from challenge 1 and skip there. That would not reach. You'd need to kind of go through that flow. Any questions on that so far? So the challenge 3 should be a larger challenge. And completing that should get you to a finish point, which again could be a checkpoint, but it's to basically indicate a level of completion. So that is different than the stages or generations of development. For the stages or conditions of development, which is above here, I wanted students to understand that we don't just build this level from a design start to finish. That once it's been designed, there is a matter of working in what order. So now we're looking at the top half here. And the first pass is where we're basically setting up our geometry. So generation 1, stage 1, pass 1, basically when you're working on your play space, you're going to use BSPs. Working on where can the player go and can they not go. You work out your fencing. You work out where can they snipe from. If they fall, how far do they fall? And you come up with your basic mechanism. But there's really no colors and no static meshes in it. And once it's been play tested as a white box or gray box world, your alpha testing's done. Then you can move into what's called the second pass. The second pass, usually you would do a save as between version 1 and version 2. And in the second pass, you start to give it a theme. So the theme can mean what colors, textures, patterns, and static meshes you're going to use. So before you get to your second pass, that same geometry could be outer space or underwater or in a jungle or desert or Old West. It could be anywhere because you're just working about with the geometry. It's in the second pass that your design really comes into play in terms of where the setting is, where this actually occurs. So the way this works is that if you have this starting point through the finish, that would be known before you start the first pass. So the part below is a design. It's an overarching idea that someone's going to bring to life. So your idea that you come up with for your game needs to be built with the constructs of where is he going to start out, where are they going to finish? I shouldn't say he. Where does the player start out? By the way, it was pointed out to me the other day that it's interesting that both with drug dealers and with video game designers that we refer to our clients as users. Isn't that funny? We are seeking an addictive quality to our product. People do get addicted to video games. I'm not trying to make it a bad thing. I'm just trying to point out what it is. So this is like a mind cloud. Like, oh yeah, this is the big idea. It's going to have these different challenges here. So that all has to be figured out before you get into development. So once that's done, that's when you would actually move into development. First, you set up your geometry. Then you're going to set your theme. And in the third pass, that's where we start to do lighting. Lighting is the time when we might do something such as, is all of the light coming in from the outside, or is the light come from within the world? Outdoor space, there might be a sun in the sky. There might be two suns in the sky, or two moons. Wherever the light's coming from is perhaps in a skybox or a sky sphere. So that third pass here is where we're actually introducing lighting. And it might be that the lighting that's going on here is actually internal. Maybe you can think of a game where the lighting comes from within, or if not a game, maybe a movie where an environment was that way. Tron is one that comes to mind where the light kind of is emitted from within because it's almost a cavern-like or inside of a computer digital world. So your lighting is set up here. There's a lot you can do with lighting in within Unreal, including using a texture that can a material that can emit light, or phase in or out, or a particle system that can lend itself to lighting. In the fourth pass, I missed my H in my spelling there, I just noticed, is really what we're calling polish. And so there's a lot to the power you can do with post-processing volumes and optimizing your looks. So I'm just going to call them processing volumes. Optimization. So each of these is going to have a series of steps within them, because you're going to need to understand how to build a level and then how to play test a level. But the progression that you build them, this is the build process, is different than the design process. And I'm talking about them both because I'm trying to introduce the concepts. These square boxes are the build process. There we go. So that's what I want you to understand. That's what I'm looking for from that Tuesday, was to understand, to see people to relate back to me that they understood, okay, when we develop a level, be it ours or somebody else's, we're going to follow this process of development. Before it's developed, it needs to be based on a design. And where that design comes from is a standard formula, and I think is a right way to think of it. My experience, if you all use the same formula, it keeps people from making it overly complex. Because one of the goals you're going to have here is to get someone else to make your levels. And if your level design's too ambitious, even though you might be quite capable of it, we've got a lot of people that are new to the tool, and they may not. My experience has shown that the more difficult levels, as clever and cool as they might be, get built by the designer, but not by anyone else. Now, you do want it to be engaging and interesting enough that other people are interested in making it. And there's a balance there. So what you can do is you can shop your idea. So first two things here are more or less outside of my class. Everyone's going to first design something and then build it. Now, what's unique to my class that I'm also talking about is the process I use where students will be exchanging designs with others. So that's the third concept that I'm kind of introducing in week 3 here of a quarter 3. Whenever I introduce it to students, I want to make sure you understand that there's kind of a circular need. It's hard for you to design a level if you've never built one, and it's hard to build a level if you don't have a design.